everybody.
Hello.
I'm Amanda. This is Nicole.
I'm Terry.
She's filling in for.
Hi, Terry.
She's filling in for David because he decided to take a little vacay. The rascal. Tonight we will be in Job 30.
Oh, we're on 41.
No, not yet. Still got a little ways to go there before we get to 41.
We're close though.
Yeah, we're
You're
close.
getting there.
We're a fourth of the way through. Or a fourth of the way there. Yeah. All right. You gonna lead off?
I can. Mine's starting up from 1 through 8. Is that what you have?
Yeah.
All right. So 1 through 8, and I have the CSB version, so bear with it. But now they mock me, men younger than I am, whose fathers I would have refused to put with my sheepdogs. What use to me was the strength of their hands? Their vigor had left them. Emaciated from poverty and hunger, they gnawed the dry land, the desolate wasteland by night. They plucked mallow among the shrubs, and the roots of the broom tree were their food. They were banished from human society. People shouted at them as if they were thieves. They are living on the slopes of the wadis, among the rocks and in the holes in the ground. They bray among the shrubs. They huddle beneath the thistles. Foolish men without even a name. They were forced to leave the land. So, what do y'all think?
All right, I'm gonna pull a David. What's Job saying?
I don't know.
Because you wasn't in here listening.
So this chapter in general, Job's continued his complaints, right? So he's
What was the
talking
question
to
again?
these people, and he's complaining about how bad his life is right now.
Right. It's like, well, the previous chapter, and I guess we probably should have done that for those who missed it last week. Job was reminiscent of the good times when he had all of his health and his family and all of his wealth and possessions and everything. And so now he's back to reality, into his pain and everything.
So he's setting the stage to describe really how bad it is right now. So in the first verse, he talks about people younger than he is mocking him, and he wouldn't put those people with sheepdogs. So back then in biblical days, dogs were referred to as much as I love dogs.
As much as, yeah.
They are like my spirit animal next to horses. They were considered dirty and filthy and contempt, like in the biblical days. So he's saying that he wouldn't even put these people with the filthiest of creatures.
Yeah.
And he's talking about those men that are younger than he is. So in today's time, right, it's not abnormal or uncommon for younger people to question authority or disrespect authority or those who were older. But back then in Job's time, that was pretty uncommon.
Yeah.
Yeah, you disrespect somebody anytime, you got smacked.
Yeah. So
That you do.
So he's saying that the young people are mocking him, whose fathers I would have refused to put. So they've kind of learned that behavior, right? That's kind of how I took it. They learned that behavior from their parents, which has gotten more prevalent, I would say,
Yeah.
as times went on.
Yeah, and the people that he's describing, well, the younger guys and their fathers, are what we would classify as the low of the low. They were, I'm trying to think of a word to describe them. Yeah, the scum of the earth. There you go. I was trying to be nice, but basically that's what it is.
Just say it.
And it's funny because in the previous chapter he's talking about how, the young people would, like when he would come by the city gate or whatever, they would, go away. Their fathers would be the ones who would, cover their mouths and, show him the respect that he was deserved and everything. But now, since all of his wealth is gone and he's basically, well, he's an adult. I mean, that's where he's at right now in this point. they're all attacking him, and they no longer respect him. So that just goes to show they didn't respect Job's character, they respected his position as well.
Not him as a person.
Not him as a person.
They respect what he can do for them, not what.
That part. And now he's in a predicament to where he can't do nothing for nobody.
Except talk, he talks a lot.
They all talk a lot.
He does talk a lot.
I'm just right, he must not have been a smoker.
So in 2 and 3, he talks about how weak they are, right? Physically, how weak they are. They're poverty stricken, they're hungry, they're skinny, they're emaciated. So they have no strength, right? So what good are they? If they have no respect, they have no strength, they're emaciated, they're not really the way he's talking on any kind of words.
Right.
For any kind of strong labor or something like that. Let's see, what else do I have? 4 or 5, it talks about where they get their food. So these people were banished. They caused so much trouble in their communities, they were kind of banished from the community, or what I picture like a city.
Yeah.
And they're banished to wastelands where there's not much, so they apparently don't have jobs or anything, so no money. So they have to dig through shrubs and trash, I guess, if you think about like today's time, to find food to eat, to sustain themselves. So he's setting the stage for these filthy, dirty, emaciated people that are speaking so lowly of him and disrespecting him. And I think that he uses all that, those ways to describe them so we can see just how bad it was for him.
Yeah. And I had read, which I didn't write it in my notes, but I had read through David Guzik, that commentator that David loves, which I like him too, he's good, but anyway, he had said that that this chapter pretty much resembles or mirrors Jesus and what he went through and everything, about how all these people that worshipped him, and then when he was gone to be beat, and everything, they were trash talking him, and everything, just like all these people that once respected Job are now doing to him and everything.
So I wonder, do you think these people ever respected him, or were they just, these people were just the bad guys, and
I think they were the bad guys. I don't think that they respected, like Terry said, I don't think they respected Job the person. I think they respected Job, what can he do for them and everything.
Maybe.
probably to give them food.
Or maybe they did, but he's been trashed so much that it's just gone.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Not
If
I was
not
a
this
true
group of
friend-
people. Not this group of people.
But if I was a true friend, I would stick by you.
Yeah. Well, now these
I
people
would.
aren't his friends. This aren't the. He's
But
not
even
talking.
if I would've been,
Yeah.
his followers, I'd have been there until he was proven absolutely,
Right.
I just don't see it being, it's gotta be, that whole thing about, he ain't got nothing for me no more.
But
I'm stepping.
people also, there's that psychology of like when you're in a group versus by yourself, and people in groups
Yeah.
all of a sudden change their views about people and do horrible things to people that
And they feed off each other.
necessarily do.
Mob
individual-
mentality.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I do see that too. See that in it too. As far as like these people that once respected him, and now that his 3 supposedly close friends are against him, so we'll just go right along with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Okay. Next section is 9 through what, 15? All right, and I'm reading the expanded version. All right. Now they make fun of me with songs. My name is a joke among them. They hate me and stay far away from me, but they do not mind spitting in my face. God has taken away my strength and made me suffer. So they attack me with all their anger. On my right side, they rise up like a mob. They lay traps for my feet and prepare to attack me. They break up my road and work to destroy me, and no one helps me. They come at me as if through a hole in the wall, and they roll in among the ruins. Great fears overwhelm me. They blow my honor away as if by great wind, and my safety disappears like a cloud. Okay, so now Job is the brunt of all their jokes.
Yep, poor Job.
Yeah, let's see what I got. He feels that God has cut him down, so now he has become subject to their ridicule and abuse. Even though Job's character has been above reproach, he is being treated as though he is no more than a common criminal.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yep.
So my verse 11 in the CSB version says, because God has loosened my bowstring and oppressed me, they have cast off restraint in my presence. So I had to think about this one. So with a bowstring, right, a bow and arrow,
Right.
and it says God has loosened my bowstring, so a bow and arrow string has to be tight, right? So in order to
Fight back.
thrust an arrow where it needs to go. So God's weakened him, right? And a loose bowstring, if I'm trying to kill a deer, who hunts in here? I've never used a bow and arrow. But I would assume if the bowstring is loose and they pull back the arrow, it's not going to go anywhere, so it's going to be useless. So Joe's pretty much saying God's taking all that away and he's useless.
Now,
So he's not feeling so great about himself at the moment. And in 11, what I thought was interesting was he said, because God has loosened my bowstring and oppressed me, they have cast off restraint. So he's saying that because God did what he did. That's why he's in that position.
Yeah, he can't fight back, so they're really coming on him hard now,
Yeah.
because that's basically a metaphor of bowstring,
Right.
not being able to fight back.
Right. And he's casted that blame to God.
Yep.
Because
Well, I mean, for all intents and purposes, based on what they learned, in their religion classes and everything, Job's being punished. He's done wrong. So
Let's pick on him.
he's
So let's pick on him and kick him when he's down.
well, yeah. And I mean, as far as they're concerned, he's no longer a man of God, so we can just treat him however we want to treat him.
so now he's given a reason now for why they're treating him that way.
Probably,
Let's see, and then in 12, starting in 12, he kind of starts moving away from the why and going back to what's happening. So he gives you a reason, this is why this is happening, and now he's going back to his suffering. So in 15, he talks about how he's afraid, right? He's afraid, he's broke, he's depressed. I'm guessing he's probably hungry if he's all of the above. He has no strength. He's tired. Let's see. And my prosperity has passed by like a cloud, so it's been taken like that, right? How quick that can happen to anybody. We'll see. I got a sideway thing. We'll see. Okay. I said that already.
Oh, did you? Okay. See, you better at this than
All right. Anybody else have any thoughts on that section? Okay. So mine's 16 through 19?
Yep.
Now my life is poured out before me, and days of suffering have seized me. Night pierces my bones, but my gnawing pains never rest. My clothing is distorted with great force. He chokes me by the neck of my garment He throws me into the mud, and I have become like dust and ashes. So the NLT version, this version doesn't say who he's referring to. It just says he, right? So in the NLT version, it says he's referring to God. So the NLT version, I kind of like the way this section reads a little better. It says, "And now my life seeps away, depression haunts my days. At night my bones are filled with pain, which gnaws at me relentlessly. With a strong hand, God grabs my shirt. He grips me by the collar of my coat. He has thrown me into the mud. I'm nothing more than dust and ashes." So you can really feel like his anguish right here, right? And the fact that he's blaming God.
Which, in a sense, I guess you could say God is to blame.
Right. I'm sure
He
it
just
definitely
doesn't-
seems that way. Job just doesn't know why.
Yeah, he doesn't know what's going on in the background and everything.
It's a pretty graphic way to describe something that God's doing to you, though.
So it looks been graphic. It's hard to get through just reading it, and I'm not being ugly, but it's like so
Look.
depressing.
Right.
It
so
is.
I was telling Nathan yesterday, Job is not one of my favorite books. I know a lot of people like Job because they like the comeback of him at the very end, but I mean, not that I don't like it. It's
Well,
not
it's
one of
good
my
reading.
favorites. It's hard to read.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
It's a hard read.
And
So I mean,
it's
through that
heartbreaking.
what he went through, I'm not trying to sound unsympathetic, but it's a lot.
Oh, yes. Job is officially bitter.
Yes.
He,
Yes, very bitter.
This
I mean,
chapter pretty much just,
You can't really blame him
No.
on the human side. I mean, he's lost completely everything.
Holy cow.
He knew his whole life has been completely
yes,
flipped upside down. So
yes, yes.
you can't really blame him.
No.
But we can learn a lot from him.
Yep. All right, next section, 20 through 23. I cry out to you, God, but you do not answer. I stand up, but you just look at me. You have turned on me without mercy. With your powerful hand, you attacked me. You snatched me up and threw me into the wind and tossed me about in the storm. I know you will bring me down to death, to the place where all living people must go. So,
That's graphic.
yeah.
Also, who can relate to that? Who's ever felt that way?
Yeah,
God
Job-
abandoned him. You can't feel him. You can't hear him. Who's ever felt that way? You bet. I have. For sure.
Oh, yeah.
So, those adjectives. Snatched,
Snatched.
tossed. Those kind of things aren't really,
Gentle.
it's not really, no, it's not. And those aren't the words that when you ask people, what do you think about God when you say, hear the word God, what do you think of? Most people, it's love, mercy, grace, those kinds of things. So you don't think about like this Bible uses cruelty, harass. Yours was snatch. And I can't help but think about when you said that, like a kid, if they're really little and they're running toward the road or about to step out in front of something or off a step or something, and you grab them, you snatch them back up. It's kind of rough sounding. So I think that kind of paints the picture of really how he feels about God right now. He is not feeling it.
Yep. He
He ain't feeling the love.
no. He's bitter. He feels like God's forsaken him. That he's just ignoring him. One pastor that I had listened to, Sandy Adams, he said it's like God's gone fishing. Can't be bothered with Job.
Got better things to do.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Job was felt pretty lonely at this point. He had no friends, he had no family, other than possibly his wife. Because right, it doesn't say anywhere.
Well, it just says at the beginning that she told him to curse his God and die, and that's it. That's all we've heard.
Maybe she left. Maybe she couldn't handle it.
That's
she
all
left.
we've heard of Job's wife. So
So he doesn't. He may or may not have a wife. We don't know. So if he has nothing in his body, and now he can't feel or hear or God at all either. And that's a pretty bad feeling.
what are we on? Oh, we're on 20 through 23. I missed a note.
So 23. Yes, I know that you will lead me to death, the place appointed for all who live. So now he's certain that God's getting ready to take him out.
Yeah.
Getting ready to kill him. He's getting ready to die.
Yep. And something else that Sandy had said in his little 7-minute video thing. Pain distorts our perspective, even our theology.
Amen.
So at this point, Job he's in so much pain and agony, he has totally forgotten everything that he knows to be true about God.
And that happens. I've been there myself. That happens.
I think it happens more often than not. I mean,
That happens with just emotional pain by itself. And Job's emotionally in emotional pain and physical pain. So he's
even in spiritual pain because
Absolutely.
he keeps on calling out to God and God's not responding. So
absolutely. Anybody else got thoughts? Okay.
it should be the rest.
24 to 31.
Yeah. At least that's what mine is. Is yours like that?
Nothing to you. Okay. Yet no one would stretch out his hand against a ruined person when he cries out to him for help because of his distress. Have I not wept for those who have fallen on hard times? Has my soul not grieved for the needy? But when I hoped for good, evil came. But I looked for light, darkness. When I looked for light, darkness came. I am churning within and cannot rest. Days of suffering confront me. I walked about blackened, but not by the sun. I stood in the assembly and I cried out for help. I have become a brother to jackals and a companion of ostriches. My skin blackens and flakes off, and my bones burn with fever. My lyre is used for mourning, and my flute for the sound of weeping. What's he saying in 24 and 25?
Well, in this version, I heard yours, but then I read mine, so I'm on to this one, whichever this one is, but, like, he's even saying, man, didn't I cry out to the needy and be sympathetic to them? Like, did I not? You know, I thought I did, kind of thing.
So he's wondering
Like,
why
he didn't
he's
do that
done
to
this.
others that were wayward.
Right. Right. So he's saying, why aren't these people doing what I would do in this situation, or what I would have done
Right.
in this situation? And
What do they call that? Quid pro quo?
we have to wonder, like, most people nowadays are selfish, right? People are in things for selfish reasons.
I mean,
So-
Yeah.
even in Job's time, they were selfish too.
Right.
I mean, it's not a far-fetched ideology. I mean, we all, at some point in our life, do something for somebody and expect something to be done for them for us in
Right.
return.
I think that happens much more often than just providing help or whatever to people and not expecting something. The majority of people want something in return. So, Job, I think Job probably in his glory days was probably one of those people that didn't necessarily expect something all
Right.
the time. I think he probably was a genuinely.
He was.
Kind of
I think he
person.
was genuinely a good guy and everything, and I think that
Well, God himself said
he was without fault. Yeah. I think that because he is in so much pain and suffering and everything, It's just, he's not himself.
He's delirious.
Well, I think it also kind of makes it harder because he was such a jam up guy that it's like, man, really, you know what I mean? It makes it even harder. It'd be like one thing if he was not as forthright and decent and
Yeah.
That's probably the most tormenting thing to him. Like she said that, you know, he's been this great guy. He's done everything he's been asked of him, and now all of a sudden he seems like he's not in the favor of anyone. And he's lost everything.
Right.
Yeah, that's that rock bottom. That's this day and time. That's living in your car, or you know,
Under a
sleeping in
bridge.
the woods, or
Yeah.
you know, that's
Yeah.
as far down as you can go from the very top. That's a long fall, a hard fall.
Yes, it is, I'm sure. So in 26 and 27, he says, but I hope for good. When I hope for good, evil came. Right? Anybody relate to that? You really want something good to happen, but all that keeps happening is bad things. When I looked for light, darkness came. He wanted things to get better, obviously, of course. But no matter how much he wanted it and how much he begged God for it, it never came. I am turning within and cannot rest. Days of suffering confront me. Have you ever been through something and it's like the most terrible thing, and you go to sleep and you wake up and it's like in the morning and it just smacks you in the face again, and you're like, it really wasn't a dream. It really sucks. So he can't sleep. I'm sure he's probably having nightmares. I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
Lots of nightmares. Lots of turmoil in his sleep and when he's awake. And in this section, he's talking about his physical anguish now.
Yes.
And we all know stress can cause lots and lots of physical problems, right? It can make you sick. And he's kind of given the worst of the worst to that. Let's see, what else did I have? In 29, I have become a brother to jackals. Do you know what a jackal? What's a jackal?
A wild dog.
A wild dog.
It is a dog. Do you know the symbol of it or what it references in the Bible? We already talked about dogs themselves in the Bible were filthy, dirty. As much as I don't think that's appropriate. Hillary probably agrees with me.
yeah.
What do you know the reference? What jackals symbolize?
Worse than dogs.
Viciousness.
Yeah, probably so. Desolation, loneliness, and abandonment. So, we said a while ago that he was probably lonely because he had no friends, no family, no God. And I think he's using that as an example. I have become a brother to jackals. So he has the dogs and nobody else. Which to some people might be great.
Well, that's like with him referencing the owl. Nobody's up when the owls were up.
Right.
Yeah.
So my Bible calls them ostriches. And then the NLT I think says owl. What does yours say?
Mine says ostriches, and then in brackets it says
Very
eagle
good.
owls.
Eagle owls.
Animals that live in the desolate wilderness.
Do you know what ostriches and owls were used in the Bible to symbolize? I don't know about ostriches. They're kind of creepy, but owls are really cute,
Whatever.
right? They're cute.
See what at night.
An owl,
Yeah.
they're cute. I think
They're cute until they start twisting their head like they're part of the
I think it's
exorcist or something.
I like owls personally. Ostriches, I guess from a distance, they look like they could be kind of
Aren't they
scary.
the ones that stick their hairs in the sand?
They are.
Yes.
Yeah.
We just talked about
So ostriches and owls alike are used in the Bible to symbolize an unclean and abominable creature. They're actually used alongside the dragon in the Bible.
And you love your dragons.
I love my dragons, yes I do.
it. Might have an ostrich leg. That'd be pretty cool. A drumstick.
Oh my gosh. You love to eat.
Yeah, I think
Oh, ostrich legs, is that not skinny?
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking flamingo, never mind.
Ostrich legs are skinny too.
That's bottom.
Yeah, they are.
At the bottom, but they got a
Okay.
fat.
Yeah,
Dye.
Their bodies.
Flamingo's don't, it's just a stick.
Yeah, flamingos, once you use to pick the teeth after you eat ostrich.
Right.
I'll keep that in mind.
If you ever eat
If I ever eat an ostrich leg.
Strange things happen here.
It's 2020.
Just 2.5 more months. So, desolation, loneliness, abandonment,
Unclean spirit.
unclean, and abominable is how he's describing himself, pretty much.
Mhm.
A brother to the jackals and a companion to the ostriches.
Yeah.
My skin blackens and flakes off, and my bones burn with fever. That's pretty graphic right there. How does it read in that one? In yours?
My skin has turned dark and my bones burn with fever.
So still, that's pretty dark. And then 31. My lyre is used for mourning, and my flute for the sound of weeping.
Ours is, my heart plays sad music, and my flute accompanies those who weep.
So what was music normally used for?
To lift spirits.
Yeah, celebration, happiness.
Yep. Celebration, happiness. What'd you say?
To lift your spirit.
You
Lift
know,
spirits.
lift your spirits, worship.
Yeah.
He's
Happy
listening
stuff.
to emo music.
He's making his own.
Yes.
It was normally used for happy stuff, worship God. Who was it that played to soothe David? That played to
That's
soothe
where country music started.
Yeah, David played for the king for
to
Saul.
soothe his anguish. So it
Yeah.
was used for happy things. And now all it's doing is being used for is mourning and weeping. So he has no joy in anything.
Yep, it's all gone.
Yeah.
He can't focus on nothing but the pain. And in his mind, rejection from God.
Yep. So we kind of leave this one off with people are against Job. God's against Job. He's lonely.
Yeah, but God's not against Job.
Well, he
In
thinks
his mind.
Right now he's in a
Right,
spot.
yeah.
Right now he's in a spot where he thinks everybody's against him. God's against him. Job's body's failing. He's hungry. He's poor. He has nowhere to live, and he's blaming it all on God. So he's in a pretty bad spot. All right.
Yeah.
Like Andrew said, it kinda is. I mean, he letting it happen to him. Versus helping back, so like you said, it kinda is God's fault. but-
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
God, because God's allowing it to happen.
Just, it seems like to
But-
test Job's faith.
But it's like.
Oh, no, that's what it is. I mean, that's what. Who does it say Satan? Because it don't actually, it doesn't actually specify Lucifer, right?
I think it might
Or
be
the
the very
devil.
first did it.
Hang on a minute. I'm getting there. That's hella fast.
Like a battle between.
Yeah, it says Satan. So, Satan's like, let's test this out.
I know what
Battle
Satan's doing
between-
right now. He's probably just sitting over in the corner laughing his little kid off.
Well, it's a battle between God and Satan, and Job got caught in the middle.
Yeah.
Basically.
So it's
Right.
kind of like the puppet.
Job's the pawn.
Yeah.
Yep, he's the pawn on their game board.
Now I do think that at some point God knew Job could learn something of it. I don't feel like God's gonna torture anybody just for the sake of doing it.
So, and he's not doing it himself.
Right.
He's
It
allowed-
to be done.
Right.
But
I
he's
think he
not
knows that
physically
Job's gonna get
or
something
mentally
from
harming
it.
himself.
Right.
I think that's how Charles Manson wound up in prison.
Yeah, me too, but still.
I mean, it says all things
Charles
work
Manson
together.
never killed anybody, but he allowed it to happen.
He manipulated people to do it for him.
Yes.
What was you saying?
I said God uses all things for to work out to good, and I think he obviously knows at the end of this Job will come out to prosper, and be a better person. Joe just can't. Joe can't see it.
Well, I mean, we know from knowing the story of Job that he's gonna come out twice as good.
You gotta go right now, we got to go on to another book.
But
That one knows the ending.
we've mentioned this before. So
Spoiler
we
alert.
don't know. But anyway, yes, I do spoilers. I ain't gonna lie about it.
She does. She loves spoilers.
I love spoilers. You can tell me anything. And, I mean, if it's a movie I wanna watch, you can tell me all about it, I'll still
She
watch
wants
it.
to know.
Yeah, so I can be prepared.
I, on the other hand, like to be surprised.
I don't do well with surprises. Where was we going? What was we talking about?
Not allowing it to happen. And Joe gets something out of it. He's gonna be twice as blessed.
Yes.
Twice as
That's something that we have to remember, not necessarily that if we're going through a hard time, we're gonna be blessed twice as much as we was before, but everything we go through is a lesson. God's always trying to teach us something in the moment. And even though we do allow our pain to overshadow what we know about God, we really should, I guess is where I'm trying to go with this.
Well, for the people who don't know God, that kind of anguish would not be survivable.
Right. Right.
So for people who do know God, it doesn't feel survivable, right? So they're as much anguish as he's in. If he didn't know who God was at all, and he didn't have that person to call out to and beg, and then he wouldn't make it through that. So I think we have to remember that, and that even in our darkest moments, God is there. He might be quiet.
It takes a special person to not just give up at this point. I
Absolutely.
feel like, even the toughest and the hardest person, man, has got to break the point.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that we need to remember. I mean, not just as Christians, but as human beings, that when we know someone that's going through pain and suffering like that and everything, we don't need to be judging them like all these people are doing to Job and everything. We need to be Jesus to them.
Yeah. And even saying things to them like God's with you.
Yeah, that's
It doesn't. I mean, I don't feel
At
like
that
not to
point-
everybody. Some people
Yeah.
might. Yeah, some
Yeah,
people
some
need to
people
hear
might
that.
be.
But some people, I think, like you said, if we're that for them, we show the love of Jesus and kind of carry that instead of saying.
yeah.
Devil.
What are they?
Actions are more
What are
than
they called?
words at that during that kind of thing.
What are they called?
What?
I can't remember. My brain just ain't functioning tonight, y'all. I should have got a cup of coffee. Empty words, but what I was wanting to go is like Christian, like, things that Christians say, we don't need to just, well, God's with you, keep your own God,
He's got better things for you.
yeah.
Yeah, because they can't see that.
No, not at that point in time.
No.
I mean, when you are in that much pain and that much suffering, that's all your focus is on. And a lot of times, especially we see it with Job and everything, he's speaking from his pain.
Yep.
Even though later on he'll realize that's not how I should have handled it. We got to remember that when people are like lashing out and everything, it's not necessarily something that they truly feel, it's what they feel in the moment.
It's a fleshly reaction.
Right.
What else did you had a question?
Well, I do have a question, but I want to say something before about where we were talking about Job and how, basically, where how all these people are now attacking Job and everything. Something that we even do today, because there's just been a bunch of things. When people lose favor with God, they also lose favor with man. So, I mean, there's been a lot of times where people who are in the ministry and stuff like that, you know, become subject to their sin, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, the Christian community also does it, attacks them for what they've done, you know, and everything. And yeah, being a Christian, we are in a spotlight, and people are basically watching, waiting for us to fall and everything. But we shouldn't put ourselves in that judgment seat. That's not our place.
Right, 'cause who's to say how you would handle that?
That's saying everything. I think I did. Slap me. I'm glad David's not here to have. Alright. Do you want to ask your question first, or do you want me to ask mine first?
Go ahead.
What was my question?
Oh no, that'd be a pretty good trick though if you could ask her question.
I can't ask
She
her
did, 'cause I told
question.
her.
I can't ask her question.
You just can't.
Oh, okay, I remember what it is. Okay, one of the things in here, one of my notes that I didn't say anyway, is talking about that when Job was in his asking God why, you know, why am I going through this? Why? And God is pretty much silent. He's not saying anything. I know that it's okay for us to ask God why, but is it okay for us to get upset and bitter because God refuses to answer?
I think it's very human too, but we're
It's very
not
human
supposed
too,
to.
but we're not
I
supposed
agree.
to.
I think it's back to that fleshly response that that instant gratification. We don't wait. We won't answer right now, like my children. Can I do something? I don't know yet. Let me think about it. And they 5 minutes later, Mama, can we please? And they don't want to wait on that response. I mean, that's the same way we are if we ask God for something, even in our prayers sometimes. When you're praying for something and you want whatever it is to happen right then, I'm not a patient person myself. I'm shaking his head. So that's hard for the majority of people.
Well, I mean, yeah, and I've learned this with work and everything. Sorry, I've learned this with work too. We want an explanation. We want to know why this is happening, what's going on, and everything, instead of trying to figure it out for ourselves. And I think that God wants us, instead of Him spelling it out for us, which I constantly am always saying, okay, God, I need a neon sign. He doesn't want to give us that sign because He wants us to figure it out for ourselves.
Yeah. Or he wants you to listen so you can hear. It's not always, God doesn't speak in a raging
No.
voice like we would like him to. It's that still small voice, I think.
A lot of time His voice sounds like mine in my head, so I mean, it's like,
Yeah. And I think we have to learn how to listen for that. If you don't constantly seek it, you're not going to know when you do get it. So maybe you have gotten an answer
yeah.
and you don't know because you don't know what it's supposed to sound like. So I think it's important to spend time here, spend time talking to him, and then, on your own, and then listen so you can hear what he's
I think
saying.
a lot of times, like Amanda said, the voice that's in our head sounds like us. So then we sit there, okay, is this me answering the question, or is this God answering the question?
Or is it the other guy?
Yeah, or is it the
Yeah.
other God trying to answer the question in my voice to make me think it is God? Yeah. And that's where discernment comes into play.
Yes, I think the one that feels that's comfortable, the one that not comfortable but gives you peace, that one's God. That one, if it doesn't give you peace and it's kind of just don't feel right, that's where the discernment kicks in.
Yeah, if it makes you comfortable, 9 times out of 10, it's not God.
So my question is just, it was just my own brain pondering as I was reading. So he talks about all these people in the beginning, right? He's homeless and all this. We don't know where his wife is. So maybe, she may still be around. Maybe they did have somewhere that they're staying or living or whatever.
She probably moved back in with mom and dad.
But I'm kind of wondering, I was kind of thinking, what if, and I don't know, so y'all tell me what you think. What if this part he's thinking is more of a figurative, and maybe these people in the beginning, these low of low people, maybe he's in a lot of anguish, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, and stress like that can cause you to go crazy. So I was just wonder if he's thinking about, like, maybe he's feeling this stuff in his head, like he's hallucinating and he can't discern between real reality and non-reality right now. I don't know. Who's to say it's not literal?
Could be a little bit of both.
Or maybe he's thinking, like, he sees these people or whatever, and he imagines that they're doing these things because he's in so much turmoil. No. Bible does speak a lot in figurative stuff, so I just thought maybe it could be literal. Either way, it sucks either way, but it could be that his brain's just not discerning right now between reality and non-reality.
Fiction, science fiction.
Okay.
That's all you got?
Mhm.
Alright, anybody got anything they wanna add? Ask? Comments?
All I gotta add is,
Criticism.
y'all done spoiled the end of it, so
We didn't tell the whole ending.
You gotta get to the God part. You gotta wait till we get to the God part.
Okay.
Cause God does that. Who you folk be?
That's not the whole ending.
No, it's not. It's not.
We left some surprises in there.
I didn't spoil it completely. I could.
Enough.
I could.
I don't like to give
But I
spoilers.
don't remember it completely.
I don't like to give spoilers.
I know you don't. That's why I watch movies like this at your house.
She'll beg me to tell her. I'm like, you gotta watch it. Takes the fun out of it. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else to add? Alright, we'll close. Father God, thank you for this day and all your many blessings on us. Thank you for this time together and our fellowship. Thank you for our learning. I pray that we can take something from this and apply it to each one of our lives and learn from you and your word and from Job and his story. I pray that you'll be with everybody the rest of the week and through the weekend, and that you'll bring them back all on Sunday. And I pray for all of the people that we listed on the prayer list and the prayer request. You know each and every one of their needs. All these things we ask and pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
You gotta make
Amen.
the body.
See y'all next week.